Parslow and Mr. Clinton, Conway, speaking and exposing corruption each and every day. Yeah, 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 yeah. Guyanese, turn on your TV and go to YouTube and listen to what Parslow and Conway to say. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Whole day we are calling for Parslow and Clinton Conway. They teach and educating, exposing the things in the system. We need a better Guyana for the little boys and the children poor. Slow and Clinton Conway.
All the money they invest, 2.2 billion.
Hear me when I sing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh.
And they would have gotten
Guyanese at home and abroad. Please log into Conway as wide as it can reach. Parslow, you always will preach. Oh, yeah, yeah. Like and share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so this message could reach as far, and every Guyanese will feel well. Oh yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Parslow and Clinton Conway, Paul and Conway, every day.
all the money they invest, 2.2 billion of our money. That money could have been invested someplace. They have to
You like the issues?
Good morning, and welcome to the Monday's episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Welcome, one and all. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you're looking forward to a productive week. Welcome. Share the live. Let them know that we're on. Today, Monday, the 5th day of January in the year of our Lord 2026. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we should never, ever take that for granted. So yes, welcome one and all. And let's be real. Today, Monday, the 5th day of January 2026. We know technically the first working day would have been the 2nd of January, but for many of us, today is the real first working day of the year. Let me be honest. Many of us, would have gone to work on Friday and just carried through the movement, waiting for the weekend to come. The weekend came, and here we are Monday. We turn out Monday, and now we are thinking about getting down, buttoning down to starting the new year. I think that is the reality for most of us. So welcome to this first Monday in the year 2026. And we had a weekend here just passed with so many things happening. So many things. And look, we're not going to disappoint you. We're going to analyze some of these things. And when we analyze, we look at security implications and try to educate and inform. That is what we are going to do. My colleague CC is in the studio awaiting the opportunity to come and to interact with you. So yes, share the live. And let me say this too. I indicated on the last episode, that was on Friday, that we will standardize the timings when the gates would be open. So 2 hours before program time. So I said then that beginning today, gates will be open at 9 in the morning, 2 hours, because it went live at 11. And for Fridays, we're going to do the same thing 2 hours before. So we will stick to the 2 o'clock. I know yet still students reaching out, say 8 o'clock gone, and they ain't seen anything. You got to be careful, because even when the notification was posted yesterday, I took time to mention that 9 o'clock. But obviously some students are not reading the notification. Obviously some students are not paying attention to some of the details given during the class. So some of them are in class, but not paying attention, which is a bad thing. If you're in class, you have to pay attention. These notices are given. I'm not going to take you by surprise with these things. So beginning today, let me repeat, For those of you here, 650 and counting, we are going to schedule the school gates are going to be open 2 hours before. So that standardizes the thing. 2 hours before. Mondays and Wednesdays, it will be at 9 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. That's 10 o'clock Guyana time. Friday, it will remain at 2 o'clock Eastern Caribbean time. Eastern Standard Time is New York time, which is 3 o'clock Guyana time. So that is what it's going to be. When there's daylight changing time or daylight saving times, we'll let you know about the changes that we are going to have, right? So let's understand, let people know. Because let me be honest, it can be a little bit off-putting to have people calling and messaging about something that we announced earlier. Obviously, they weren't there or they weren't paying attention. And if you didn't get the notification, maybe that's an indication that you have not subscribed to the channel, as we have been repeatedly requesting you to do. Subscribe so when these notices are posted, you're going to get them. But if you don't subscribe and hit the notification button, you're not going to get the notices when they are published, and then you're going to keep molesting these teachers, right? So let me understand that. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Easy. There's a button marked subscribe. You hit the subscription button. Then there's a little bell, notification bell. You hit the notification bell. So when anything is posted on this channel, you will get a notification that something is posted. If you are a Facebooker, you just follow the page on Facebook. And when anything is posted, you're going to see it. As simple as that. But I know that many students, including loyal students, have not subscribed. I can see that. I'm going to call them out, but many have not subscribed. And that is what perhaps leads to the issue. But as I've said, we have a lot to discuss this morning. We're going to go quickly and recognize those who came in early at 9 o'clock. And then we're going to move to some notifications. And then we're going to get into it. We have enough to talk about this morning. Enough. So first body in this morning at exactly 9 is Wayne from the UK. Sean came then, same time. They all came at the same time. But this is how they're listed. Evelyn, Earl, Barbara, Peter, Joy, Fergus, Gaston, my squad mate, 9556 still out of Canada, Brian, Ivor, Mary, the angel is here. He came at 9:01, so too did Mary. Aubrey from Canada, Courtney, Anthony from Petersall and the East Bank, Nicola, then it was Kerry from Guyana, Donald is here. He came at 9:01 too. Then it was Ricky Smith came at the same time, and that is how it went. Those were the early students in the schoolyard. And then when we opened the doors, the first person who came in, I think I saw that same guy again. You know who I'm referring to? He came in very early, as usual. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. Let me scroll down to see the areas. Edward came in at exactly 11. Then it was Tian, Abu from the Essequibo Coast, Junior. Then it was Lennox, Colvis, Simone, Carlton, Popo is here very early. Joan from New Amsterdam, Colvis, and Pam, Faye, and the list goes on. Sister Trifosa is here, and Rhonda. Then I'm still in the house. The list goes on and on and on. So welcome to you students. Now let me give you the quick announcements. Let me start with the as I said, we start with the sad ones. And 661 days and counting. That's the late Police Sergeant Alex Vaughn, shot and killed on March 12, 2024. They say by friendly fire. And I want to know, 661 days. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep talking. A new year, almost 2 years. Very soon it will be 2 years. And we're not hearing any. The public has not been given an update on that matter. What is wrong with that? What a stall? Is the investigation complete? What is the reason that you can't make a public announcement on what has happened with that matter? So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. We in terms of deaths, just to update you on we told you about the funeral arrangements for this youngster who was shot and killed in Sophia. young Fraser. Last night there would have been a candlelight vigil at Morse Wing Bridge, Sophia. Tonight, the wake will be at his mother's residence, 41 Plum Park, Sophia, from 5 p.m. Also at his father's residence, Lot 1 Republic Drive, Bedford Walkton. Well, that will be on the 6th. The father's residence, I see it here now, on Tuesday, January 6th. Right? So don't get me. Tonight is at the mother's residence. Tomorrow at the father's residence. That's in case you don't know, for those of you familiar, that is a TV station near Alagala, Lot 1 Republic Drive. And then the funeral will be on the 8th of January. That is Thursday. Viewing at his mother's residence from 11 to 1:30. Then to his father's residence, 1 Republic Drive, Bedford Walkton, for further viewing from 1:30 to 2:30. There's a service going to be held straight right there, and then burial at the BV Cemetery. So that's the one that I want to update you on at this stage. In terms of the more pleasant announcements, today is the birth anniversary of a very, very good friend of mine. CC, today is Eddington Tappin's birth anniversary. I just see I made a note. Eddie Tappin, retired assistant commissioner. Very, very good friend. Those of you who know him, quiet, very jovial person. Quiet and very jovial. Special branch CID. Yeah, so Eddie is observing his natal day today. Also observing a natal day today is Keith Griffith. Keith used to be at the Presidential Guard years ago. He used to play football for the police. So Keith is also observing the natal day today. And in terms of, we don't have any advance. We do advance like about a day or two. We don't have any. So when we come next, we're going to tell you about those. But then today is a special day for our student, the man who's always here in the classroom very early. Edward Charles is observing a wedding anniversary today. Edward Charles observing a wedding anniversary. So I should have expressed condolences to the relatives again of the deceased young Fraser, and congratulations to all those who are observing the birthdays today, who observed recently and who are observing in the near future. Special congratulations to Mr. and Mistress Isaacs on your wedding anniversary. It's always good to be with your partner for another year. So, happy anniversary, happy birthday, happy anniversary. Now, before I bring in CC, I know he's a cricket master. One of the announcements, you got cricket in the air. The Ashes test match, the 5th is on the way. England won the toss and bat, 300 and odd runs. Australian reply 166 for 2 at the end of the second day. How this day going? It looked like you go end in a draw. But cricket is a game of glorious uncertainties. Joe Root, 160. Class is class. Joe Root's 41st test century. Class is class. Because before the commencement of this tour, this Ashes series, they were saying, well, it was true, that Joe Root had not scored 100 in Australia. He had not scored 100 down under. Now he has scored 2 in this in the 5 tests. He's a batsman of class. 41 test centuries. Imagine that. 41 test centuries he has. Right? So we'll see how that match develops. Now another one of the big things for the cricket fans who are here, cricket fans, big controversy with Bangladesh and India. Bangladesh, I think, they have refused to go to play the T20 World Cup, which begins next month in India. They have asked for the match to be rescheduled, to be placed in Sri Lanka. I think they want to play instead. They're not going to India. Some big controversy with them, I think. And only yesterday, I think it was, I read now that the Bangladeshi government has banned the airing or the playing of IPL matches in Bangladesh. So when the IPL season starts, they can be broadcast in Bangladesh. There's real story going on over there, real story. So cricket now or sports now is not only sports, big politics involved in anything, big politics. So let me bring in CC, and then we are going to move, and we're going to move at a pace this morning because we have so many things to talk about. CC, welcome. Hope you had a wonderful weekend.
Not so much wonderful, but happy to be in the land of the living. and to do God's work. I went to a school. Bobby used to bury my cousin. We grew up together. Um, the name is, they call him Steve Samuel Johnson, called Steve. So I went there. I think he was born on the 2nd of August
We continue our
1953.
breaking coverage of what may be the most audacious military operation.
Yeah, he was born in the 2nd of August 1953, and I born the 6th of September 1953. And he always tell me, I ain't care where, sir. You very big up yourself. Me is big brother for you. Me is big cousin for you. I 1 month, 4 days old for you. He used to tell me all the time. May his soul rest in peace. And I had the opportunity to renew some contacts with some of my classmates, like Sandra Gonzalez, Ingrid Jones, or the we and a whole set of others there. I even passed on by the school that I attended, number 29 government school. The real good bring memory time, you know. And I want to shout out to Pastor Schultz, same man from West Coast Barbies, and Pastor Smith. I haven't heard from Smith for a long while, you know. Give me a shout out about Pastor Smith, you know, and all those persons. Well, the cricket, you know, when politics get involved in cricket, it's chaos, it's confusion, all kind of things will happen. But happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. I'm also to see the first Monday of the year. We have plenty more things to discuss, so let's get on with it.
Yeah, we have plenty to discuss, and maybe a good place to start as we move on. Well, I guess what they're saying is a big fire of an abandoned building in Barbies. The ministry used to occupy the building. I don't know what is the cause, but they had a big fire there over the weekend at this building in New Amsterdam. And on Friday, which January the 2nd, Friday gone, January the 2nd, was a significant day in the history of the Guyana Police Force and Guyana. It was on the 2nd of January 1969 that the Rupununi uprising began. For those of you who don't know, there were two families, the Melville and the Harts family, wanted to secede for Rupununi to be their own state. They were financed, they say, trained and backed by elements in Venezuela. So they started the attack on the Letem police station, which resulted in the death of 5 police ranks at that station, January the 2nd, 1969. Those ranks who were killed, Inspector Whittington Braffett. And those of you who know Whitty Braffett, right? Retired senior superintendent, I think he was, Whitty Braffett. Whitty's father was killed in that uprising, right? Same name as his father, Whittington Braffett. Then also killed there was Sergeant 4590 James Anderson. Constable 5611 James McKenzie. I think 5691 William Norton. And William Norton was the father of my squad mate, W358 Patricia Norton. We used to call her sister. So sister father was killed. As I said, Whittington Braffett father was killed. And then there was a constable 7178 Kendall Michael. He too was killed in that uprising at Letem. And the GDF went in there, put down the uprising. And again, for those people who follow history, the same year, I think it was later down in the same year, GDF had to go into the New River Triangle to expel the Surinamis from that part of Guyana. So we must remember these things. And you know why I remember? I don't know if it missed me on Friday, but I remember as a young teenager listening and reading about that Rupununi uprising. And that, to some extent, motivated me to join the Guyana Youth Corps because I wanted to go and get trained to fight these Venezuelans. I wanted, because the boys were talking about this youth army that they have, Youth Corps, and several boys from the village were already there. People like Mike Wilson and Leroy Ben, and a couple others were already in the Youth Corps. And I said, no, I go in and join because I want to fight these Venezuelans. right? I had to wait a little while because at the time, I think I was below age. But as soon as I became of age, I joined and went and I got training. So Rupununi Uprising, the act there, influenced my life and my career. And let me say this, I am a better person for the fact that I joined the Guyana Youth Corps, got some discipline, got some training, got some education, and all of that. And I say that an organization such as that is needed more now than ever. With all that is going on in Guyana, right? You need an organization where the youths can go and be trained, be given some discipline and all that. They are the national service too, but this government, nearsighted as they are, right, did away with national service. Because in case you all didn't know, National Youth Corps was the precursor, was there before the Guyana Youth Corps, before the national service. And then the national service came along, and then we had militia and all this type of thing. So the Guyana Youth Corps, I joined in 1969, October the 3rd, 4th intake. Others were, that one, the 4th, 2nd, the 3rd intake. And many of us were trained, and we came out better persons because of that training. But what the youths have now, what avenue they have now? So they jump around and they talk about youth crime and youth smoking drugs and the youth doing that. But what institutions have they put in place to challenge the energies of the youth to do some productive thing? They ain't got nothing that I am aware of, right? So I thought I'll mention that because, again, the Rupununi Uprising, on the 2nd of January 1969, 5 policemen died in that thing. And except for when you have the annual memorial in July, during the police anniversary, people don't talk about these things because, for example, on the 2nd of January last Friday, the nation, they should have had some program. I don't know if they had, I didn't see any, reminding people of the treachery, of the treason perpetrated by the Melvilles and the Arts family they were cattle farmers in Rupununi during that period. People got to be reminded of these things. People have got to be reminded of these things. Because if you don't remember history, it's gonna repeat itself. Or, as we have now, people rewrite the history. They rewrite the history. So let me bring in CC for him to comment on that, and then we're gonna move on. CC, I don't know, we missed the 2nd of January last Friday, but it's better late than never, as they say. Go ahead.
So true. Better. Shocking, because I got a squaddy, 1929, Emerson Cox. His father died there. His father was, I think, Sergeant Anderson, died in the Rupununi Uprising, and he subsequently joined the police force. He's now, I think, living in Canada, but he comes back very regularly. And we must remember our history, you know. I remember I went into Jonestown about 2 years after the uprising, and there was on the stage there a big signboard there, bold letters. After all the destruction, that thing stand up. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. If you don't remember the past, you're condemned to repeat it or reveal it, you know. And we must remember those things. And then I didn't care. I must seen anything in the local press, you know, about the uprising with the Hearts and the Melville. But the GDF did an excellent job, you know, in terms of bringing the situation under control in a short period of time, you know, under difficult circumstances, you know. But we should have remembered it, at least nationally, and acknowledge it and say something about remind our population, especially the youngsters, about the Rupununi Uprising, where they want to be at. I think they want to be the Republic of Rupununi or some kind of thing there. And they had the backings of the Venezuelans, you know. So congratulations to the GDF for a job well done, you know. And we must remember it.
Yeah, and you know, there is some controversy surrounding the whole operation because in recent years we read where certain senior people who claimed to have played certain role, it is revealed that they were just embellishing their involvement in that that the put down of that uprising. I read that somewhere. So yeah, again, that is why these things have to be recorded, because if you don't, people gonna come along and they paint a totally false picture of what transpired. But again, I know those police officers or police ranks who were killed, they have surviving relatives and children and all of that. I extend condolences to them. And again, I say that apart from the police recognizing or remembering those who died during the anniversary activities in July, the government, 2nd of January, government should have had something on NCN or somewhere there reminding us what transpired. But they have no interest in that. They want to rewrite the history of the country. We should allow them. We shouldn't allow them. Now, let me say this. This morning, today is the 5th, and we were told last week that the challenge or the application that was filed by Mohammed's attorney in relation to the extradition proceedings, we were told that the Chief Justice acting was to deliver a decision today. I suspect they might be there now. Yes, I ain't seen nothing. I was monitoring social media. I haven't seen anything. But as I said, I am of the opinion that let me say this. The matter was set, the trial, the extradition hearing proper was set to commence on the 6th of January. That's tomorrow, before Magistrate Judy Latchman. And I said on Friday, I expect that the extradition hearing will commence tomorrow, because the judge is going to rule today. I have a suspicion that if the judge rules against the Mohammeds, that is, if he says that the matter should continue, they might seek to appeal. I'm not sure what the process is, but things are going to be moving with breakneck speed. I can assure you of that. That is what the ball is saying. The crystal ball is saying things will move at breakneck speed. And the trial, the extradition hearing trial is going to commence shortly. But as I also advise you all to read the letter written last, I think it was on the 31st of December by attorney at law, senior counsel Juman Yassim. And he made some very, very important observations in that letter, right? He made some people saying the judge ruled against them. I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but some people are commenting. Maybe the ruling was already handed down. I'm not sure. But a lot of people saying that the judge ruled against the Mohammeds. So I tell you, what the crystal ball say? If they so, I told you all I look into the ball. Right? Right? So I say, a lot of people commented the judge indeed ruled against the Mohammeds. The case was thrown out. They say he threw it out. But this crystal ball where you get it, right? See, everybody, a lot of students now saying that the request was refused by the judge. What did I say on Friday? I want to, you already ruled. People are telling me now you already ruled. What did I say on Friday? Those of you who are in class Friday, did you remember what I said? I said that the extradition hearing will proceed on the 6th, right? They proceed on the 6th. And you would have understood exactly where I was coming from. Because as I told you, then read what just Senior Counsel Giovanni Yassim said. And in the letter, I'm going to read a part. I ain't going to read the whole thing because I gave you homework to read the letter. Part of the letter, this is a part. He says, there was an article on the 24th of October 2025 in the Kaichor News that had the headlines, "Confusion in the Courts. Chief Justice shut out of chambers after Chancellor's return." Then it goes on to say, up to the date of writing this article, there has been no explanation why Justice Roxanne George had to suffer the indignity of being locked out of her office, or why the confusion arose and or that the news item was incorrect. On the said 24th of October 2025, several hours after Kaichor News headline, President Irfan Ali made an announcement that Justice Roxanne George will continue to act as Chancellor and Justice Navendra Singh will also continue to act as Chief Justice. President Irfan Ali, in his announcement, made the startling and unexpected pronouncement that Madam Justice Janet Cummins Edwards will proceed on pre-retirement leave. Prior to this, there had been no indication or rumor of her going on pre-retirement leave, not a whisper. To date, there has been no announcement or communication from Madam Cummins Edwards as to why she suddenly decided to proceed on pre-retirement leave. I must confess that I am unaware as to when she had to retire and by how many months or years that she may have had before having to retire. But I'm informed that it was about 2 years. As I stated at the beginning of this article, that when there is a paucity of information or none at all, persons will come to conclusions on the facts and the circumstances, on the circumstantial evidence before them. It thus seems that something occurred or was said to or offered to Madam Cummins Edwards for her to make the decision to proceed on pre-retirement leave. I have drawn the following conclusions, and if I am wrong, then I will apologize. Indeed, I hope that I am incorrect. Acting Chancellor Janet Cummins Edwards was not liked by the government as a result of the majority decision of the Court of Appeal that she gave with the appeals pertaining to the 2020 elections. Justice of Appeal Don Gregory Barnes was the other judge that made up the majority. These decisions were overturned by the Caribbean Court of Justice, and I was in agreement with them being overturned. When Madam Cummins Edwards applied to proceed on leave, the plan was hatched to have her removed. The plan also included to have Justice Navendra Singh being appointed to act as Chief Justice in order to cover any case that might come up before or after the elections to be held on September the 1st, 2025. In order to appoint Justice Navendra Singh, Justice of Appeal Rishi Prasad had to be bypassed, even though he was a very senior judge by many, many years. The practice in the past is that the senior judge of the High Court senior judge of the Court of Appeal would be appointed to act as Chief Justice when necessary. Justice Navendra Singh had only been appointed a Court of Appeal judge in May 2025, whilst Justice of Appeal Rishi Prasad had been a Court of Appeal judge since July 2017. I am unable to make a firm conclusion whether at the beginning of the plan to appoint Justice Navendra Singh to act as Chief Justice, it included for him to remain in that position. However, I do believe that I am on safe grounds to reasonably conclude that it was decided before Acting Chancellor Cummins Edwards came back from her leave that she would be forced to retire and or enticed to do so, and that Justice Navendra Singh would remain as the acting Chief Justice. This decision was apparently communicated to Justice Navendra Singh, and it is the only reasonable conclusion why he remained in Justice Roxanne George's office and did not vacate, although she came to our office. Justice Navendra Singh is a decent, honorable, and ambitious person. He has had the greatest of respect for Justice Roxanne George. He would never shut her out of his office unless he was instructed so to do. There's a background. Y'all go and read this letter. There are a lot of things inside that. And just give you this part why I say that the wicked set, that is what is implied. You don't think this part in order to they made the point, right? The point is made here that the government, that is not me saying so, that is what Joman Yassim Senior Counsel is saying, that the government were of the view that following the September 1st election, matters may have gone to the court. And therefore, he is saying that they set the wicket so that when these matters come up in the court, they will get, the rulings will go a particular way. That is what Joman Yassim is saying, not me. That is what he's saying. So when I told you that I looked into the crystal ball on Friday and I saw what is taking place here, that Friday the decision is going to be made. And again, I pointed out the alacrity with which these things are dealt with. Friday, I told you, Monday morning, which is this morning, there will be a ruling. And the ball said that the extradition case is going to be set to proceed on the 6th. Now, let me say this. The legal people say, I don't know what is the process between now and tomorrow. I haven't seen that because I suspect there will be avenues for appeal because the Chief Justice made a ruling. I would suspect that the lawyers representing Mohammed will appeal. I don't know how that process works. So I can't pronounce on that. Whether what I do know is that if, as in this case, a ruling has been handed down, unless there is a stay of the decision, unless there's a stay, again, I'm not sure how the modalities for that will work, but unless there's a stay, then the matter can continue tomorrow. The matter will not continue, the matter will commence tomorrow. That is what we're saying. Let me understand this thing. So the judge has made a ruling. I have not seen it, but I following the student said the judge ruled this morning throughout the application. Because the application was really, as I understand it, was for the extradition hearing to be stayed until some matters are ventilated in the High Court. Right? That is what I understand. So if the judge threw out that application, it means basically saying, let the matter proceed tomorrow in the magistrate court. Now, as I've said, I know there's normally something to appeal. You can appeal. I don't know if you're appealing in case of the Chief Justice making a decision. I don't know if it goes to the appeal court. I don't know if it goes to the full court. I'm not sure. I have to find out from the legal people. Me and no liar, right? But there has to be an avenue for appeal. And then we're going to see what is happening, because even if you are going to appeal a matter, as far as I'm aware, a critical step in the process is to have a stay on the decision of the Chief Justice. In other words, I don't know who got to grant that stay, but there got to be a stay on the decision in order for the matter not to proceed tomorrow. So let me bring in CC, man. CC, this crystal ball where you get today, some people just want to borrow it and so on. Me not lend, right? Me not lend the crystal ball. I told them when I looked into the ball, that is what the ball said. Go ahead, my brother.
I agree with you. Don't let it out. And then it didn't tell you so on Friday, long before it told you what is likely to happen. So we know, and I just like you, I get some calls that hey, that the proceedings will start tomorrow, or said you start as tomorrow. But I'm not certain in terms of the nature of the appeal. I'm not certain whether, I think there are cases when you can go straight to the CCJ, and bypass the other courts. I not know what are the modalities, but certainly it's very interesting. And I agree that the wicket was set. This is well prepared, and we prepared for one side to score some runs.
Well, like cricket, like the cricket, we use the cricket analogy. You just prepare the wicket for your home team or the favorite team, and then it just backfire, It does backfire. Remember, we had a wicket the last test match at Melbourne. I suspect, based on the reports, that the wicket was prepared to favor Australia. Wicket was the thing, and what happened? Australia lost. So let me see where this will go. As I told you, as we have said repeatedly, we are not liars, but we are former senior police officers exposed to a lot of training, legal training, including at a lot of prestigious institutions. And we are like them now, many of them now, who you go in 1 year and it comes to the next year. No. You go in 1 year, come to the next year. So let me follow. I'm going to continue to follow to see where that will go. I continue to follow to see where that will go. Now, I know y'all want to hear us talk about the development over the weekend in Venezuela. It coming, share the life, man. Share the life, it coming. But before we go to that, there are two other issues that I want to bring to your attention. And this one is particularly important for police ranks. I'm referring to an incident that is reported over the weekend involving the elder Muhammad, Nazar Shel Muhammad, right? And I'm not gonna let me play the video. I have the video lined up. I'm gonna play the video and listen carefully to what he said took place. And then at the end of it, we are going to give you an analysis, and we're gonna talk about police action in matters like that. So here we go. It's about 5.5 minutes. So y'all sit back, get your popcorn, take out your little sweetie, your little toffee, or whatever, your little sugar cake, whether it's grated sugar cake or chip sugar cake or red sugar cake. Take out the thing and start your snack. Here we go.
Good morning. I would like to bring you up to date of a situation that has been going on for the past week. You will recall that squatters went on a land that we have purchased in 2010, and the transaction was completed during APNU regime in 2019, I think. Now, this land was legally purchased, was $7 million an acre for 15 acres. All documentation is in place. All receipts for payments and everything is intact. So I was made to understand that this Kwame McCoy and Amir Sheriff is the one who has been sending the squatters on the land. So yesterday morning, I received a call that the people came there with heavy duty equipment, a bulldozer, excavator, and they were clearing the land. So I went there. I saw what was going on. I spoke to the people. The guy who owned the machinery said that he was told by Kwame McCoy to come and clean up the land. I showed him the records. He ignored me and he continued. So I went to the police station. I saw a corporal there, a female. I spoke to her. She examined the documents. She went into, her officer in charge. I don't know him. I went in the room. She eventually took the statement. And then she called up the patrol and herself. I drove my own car. They went with the police vehicle. The driver, a police rank, and an inspector, along with another female officer from the Diamond Police Station. They went, they had the records in their hand, they showed the people. They were very rowdy, but the policemen them hold their composure. They were very respectful. They asked them if they have papers. They said no, but they were told to come here, that land sharing out, and to occupy the land. The machinery were still working. So the police concluded, and we went back to the police station. At the police station, it was very sad. Now, I don't know none of these three police officers, the two female and the officer in charge of the station. I went in his room. Now they took me in, and that's where he received a phone call saying that he has been transferred. That one hit me to the core, right? I mean, that is unbelievable that police officers went there to execute their duty in a very respectful and mannerly manner, and they were transferred. All three of them, I understand, were transferred with immediate effect. what is really going on in our country. How can this be possible? Who is making the call? Who is doing these things? This is unbelievable. You know, I have never seen nothing like this in all my life. I don't know these policemen, the man and the woman, the two women. I don't know them at all. The patrol guys left and they went their way. I don't know which station they are attached to. I don't know if they would be transferred to. But this is unbelievable, you know. How can these people pursue a career in the police force when so much victimization? That one hit me to the core. I became very emotional, you know. Had I known this, I would have never gone there to the station because it doesn't seem that we will get any rights in this country. I'm really saddened for this. But I'm a Muslim. I'm a believer. I try to do my duty to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I want to say this, that oppression is worse than slaughter. And nothing goes unpaid in this life, you know. Oppression is the worst sin people can commit. So I just want you to know this. I'm saddened. I sympathize with the officers. But what can I do? I'm also helpless in this situation. Thank you.
All right, you already did for yourself. Now we're going to analyze something here and so on. And, you know, Shell Mohammed, the father of Nasruddin, Mohammed, the leader of the WIN party. I mean, you could hear the emotions in the man's voice and so on. But remember, you are part of them, you know, part and parcel of this corrupt set of people. So you're living it now. What many of us lived for years, the victimization, the persecution. You're seeing what's going on now for yourself. Well, let me address, and then CC's going to address the police action. This is a case where, according to what is being reported, there is trespassing on private property. Trespassing on private property. That is what we got to focus on. They're claiming that a minister of the government, that is the allegation, Kwame McCoy, who is known, and I'm going to say this, who is known to foment a lot of problems, right? Remember, with the throwing of shit from Freddie Kissoon, he was charged with that. He was convicted for another matter. He was arrested in the murder of Courtney Cameron. So he's known to be involved in this thing. Let me say this in case they're going to run to say that he was not convicted with the shit throwing matter. That is true. He was not convicted. He was charged along with Sean Hines and Jason Abdullah. Jason Abdullah was the only man convicted. The magistrate in her ruling, Magistrate Judy Latchman, the same magistrate Judy Latchman, said that she was convinced that Kwame McCoy, is this man who set up these people to throw shit on Freddie Kissoon. But then she explained something as to why he wasn't convicted. So when they're going to come, that is the story. So a report is made to the police about trespassing. And if you look at the video again, it's not no ordinary squatting, right? This is not a couple of people in the village, a couple of poor people decide, well, look, we here landed on there, we're going to put down, we pick it. No, it is organized. You have every machinery clearing the land. You have things set up. You have wood. You have materials there. So let me understand this thing clearly. This is not no ordinary squatting. This is something from the evidence that is organized. And Mr. Mohammed is saying that based on what he understands, that Kwame McCoy organized it. All right. So it's organized. So what happens next? Mr. Mohammed armed himself with all his documents, right? And went to the police station. He said he engaged, I think he engaged with the people who were there for us. This matter running for a week, right? He engaged with the contractor there. Said, well, look, this is me land, and you can't be doing it. Man said, you ain't care about that. You get order for come and do what you got to do, and he do. So the man went to the police station and made a report. Correct action. You're not taking the law into your own hands. He went to the police station and he made a report. The report was entertained by the police. Correct action again. Correct action. The police decided that they were going to visit the scene. Proper police action. You make the record, you go and visit the scene. Now, this is where the police need to understand. You ain't got no authority to say you're going to arrest and so on. You go, as Mr. Mohammed is saying that they did, they asked the persons if they had papers to the land and thing. The man said no. They said no, they ain't got no paper. The police said, well, these are the people get claim and they think the land, the people maintain, they're not leaving. Right? At that stage, all the police can do is to warn them to leave the land and also informed or warned the person who's claimed to own in the land. Nobody, you got to go to the court and get an order to have these people removed from your land. Right? Police ain't got no power to say they're going and arrest. Police can't determine who owns the land or who ain't own the land. Even though papers might have been presented to you, that is not the work for the police. You did the correct thing. You made the record, you went there to talk to the people, and the people decide you're not going to comply with what you say. Even if you had instructed them or you have advised them to come off the land, you can't force them off the land. Can't, right? So you advise the owner, in this case, Mr. Mohammed, you got to take the matter to court. Got to take the matter, try to get some urgent court intervention to stop them from occupying the land. That wasn't done. But then what is being reported, the sad part is that, as Mr. Mohammed said, I understand from reliable sources that by the time the police got back to the police station, the officer transferred to the TSU. I know where the others were sent, but the officer in charge of that location, for doing his job, you get transferred to the TSU. Those of us who have been around and know the Guyana Police Force know when you get transferred to the TSU, what it means, right? He's transferred to the TSU because he did, on the face of it, the correct thing. And why is he transferred? Because of the persistent persecution against the Mohammeds. This is not an isolated incident. Not an isolated incident. They had the incident with the vehicles, 2 incidents. They got one going on now, I understand. We're going to talk about that some other time, where they are investigating GRA officers who are involved in the transfer of vehicles, claiming that it was illegally done, and those persons are now in jeopardy. So that is what that is what you have in. That is what you have in. And you know, let me say, right? Let me say, it is my belief, and you can't stop me from having my belief from based on experience, that the government is spoiling for a violent confrontation with the Mohammeds or the supporters. That is my belief. Because when you're going to do that, when you have, and it's clear, let me go back to the point. This is not people who just go on the land and say, oh, let's squat in the land. This is organized, heavy duty machinery and all of that, where you believe ordinary squatters can get them resources from. It is organized. The evidence is clear. Organized. Go there, take up your land. And I got to compliment Mr. Mohammed for the action he took on report to the police, because some people would have decided they are going to try to remove them forcibly from the land. Thereby, you're going to get a violent showdown. And let me say this, and the Mohammeds will know that any violent showdown, the Mohammeds can win. That is what I want. That is what I want. They want a violent showdown, and then the police going to come involved, guns going to maybe blazing, private security companies, some of them aligned to the PVP, they're going to get involved, and blood going to shed. That is what they are spoiling for. That is my view. That is my view. This is a dangerous development. Dangerous development. Private land. Don't let me get to how, don't let me even consider how they became the owner of this land. That is not the question to debate here now. They get the land. If you want to challenge that the land wasn't acquired lawfully, then there's a process. Then there's a process to challenge whether the purchase or the lease. There's a process to that. But you can't just decide that you're sending people to occupy this land. The only reasonable conclusion I can come to, or any reasonable person can come to, is that you're looking for a showdown. You're spoiling for a showdown, a violent showdown, not only verbal interaction, because I am certain When I looked at some of the people who were sent there, I saw some of them are licensed firearm holder. Some of them packing. Some of them are packing. And anytime you jump up, they would have done, even whether they were ordered to do that, or they decide that is the best thing to do, you'd get a violent showdown. This government testing people's faith. Testing people's faith. And I'm saying again, before I bring in Mr. Conway, if you believe that the land that was acquired unlawfully, then there is a legal protest. You like to talk about the rule of law. So if you believe, you say you get the land in 2010 during the PPP administration, but the transactions were completed during the coalition administration. And therefore, if you believe, for whatever reason, that this thing is not kosher, go to the court. But when you send people to occupy private property, you're looking, people are going to lose faith, that everybody can withstand them type of pressures. And I guess that is what they want. People are going to use faith. Let me bring in Mr. Conway for him to have his say on this issue, especially as it relates to the police action. Yeah, CC, go ahead, my brother.
I hold no brief for the Mohammeds. No brief whatsoever for the Mohammeds. I know they were in the belly of the beast. They were with the PPP fallout. And as you mentioned, Paul, they're looking for a showdown, a violent showdown where guns will talk and the Mohammeds won't win. The action taken by the police is the correct action. That you entertain the report, you check the documents, that you visit the scene, the location, and you talk to the people there. And you say, yeah, we are moving. Advise the reporter that he has to take private action if he so desires. And then, lo and behold, by the time they reach back, transfer to TSU as a means of punishment. They weaponizing the transfer. Weaponizing the transfer to TSU. Get TSU, the tactical division of the police force, as a dumping ground. That in case anything happens, them same men who they disregard gotta come back on the road and do work. And I always like to look at the law, Paul. And this is a summary Jurisdiction Offences Act, Chapter 802. And they talk about acts constituting willful trespass. Section 33 reads, everyone who, A, unlawfully enters in an insulting, annoying, or threatening manner upon any land, yard, garden, stealing house, or premises, or any canal, trench, or pond belonging to another. Or B, unlawfully enters upon or in that land or other place having been forbidden by the owner thereof or servant to do so. Or C, unlawfully enters and remains upon that land or other place after being required by the owner thereof or his servant to depart thereof. D, having lawfully entered in or in that land or other place, misconducts himself by behaving thereon in an insulting, annoying, or threatening manner. Or E, having lawfully entered on the land and other place, remain there, having been lawfully required by the owner thereof or his servant to depart thereof, shall be deemed a willful trespasser. That's what the law say, that you enter people's property and after warning, hey, this is me property, but I don't want you everything else, and you remain there, you can be deemed a willful trespasser. And it is up to the owner now to take his own legal action. And so the police did the correct thing, accept report, document, talk to the persons, advise the owner, and lo and behold, transfer immediately to TSU, weaponizing the transfer. So it's up to Marvin now to take legal steps to get redress. Whether or not he get redress is another matter.
I'm glad, that is what I love my colleague, man. You read the law. That is what the law says. The only issue they're going to bring here as to the legality of the land, as we said before. But as we saw in that tape, there's a sign warning persons not to trespass on the land. There's a sign indicating who is the owner of the land. So it's not a case where they can go and say, well, they landed on there like a pasture, and I don't think it has owner. The sign is there. Sign is there. And before I move off this matter, I want to say the fact that the officer, and I've been doing investigation, the officer is, he get lives like a cat. That's all I would say. The officer who was removed, right? He get lives like a cat, right? But having removed the officer, without clearly no investigation, without even establishing that the conduct of he and the other ranks might have been inappropriate, unlawful transfer, is to show how dysfunctional the Guyana police force is. So, because for him to be transferred to TSU, as we know the system, that can be the divisional commander. The divisional commander does not have that authority. A divisional commander can transfer you within the division. In this case, based on what we are told, he is stationed, the officer was stationed at Diamond, which is within Division 4B. 4B. For him to be removed out of Division 4B to be transferred to headquarters, to the tactical services unit, that requires the involvement of either the commissioner of police or the deputy commissioner administration. That is, well, of course, I suspect too that they would have been given instructions. They would have been given instructions, transfer them. Or if they weren't given instructions to transfer them, they would have been appraised of what went on and decide that the best course of action is to transfer those officers. Putting people under them type of pressure. Again, I have no sympathy for the particular officer. I know he did the guards and he's still about. But it's about process. It's about due process. It's about the morale of the ranks. When they hear them thing happen, people now become timid. People become afraid to take corrective action in this case. Based on what is being reported, they took the correct course of action as required by the standing order and required by normal police practice. They took the correct course of action, and you are penalized for that. Because a transfer to the TSU is punishment. Let me understand it. And in the manner in which it was done. This is not a case where, as they would normally say, whether it's called a rotation now, they got a new word, they use a euphemism, rotation, to indicate transfer. But this is not a normal rotation. This is immediate. This is immediate. And the only way it can be immediate is because the people are being punished for doing the correct thing. So what do you think will happen to the other people when they hear that? By me getting involved. And who's going to punish? Is the members of the public will punish. They are going to suffer from lack of proper police action. Because once they go, and I suspect, let me put it in some context. I suspect, and I'm sure most of you will agree with me, this all happened only because it's the Mohammed. Is the state apparatus being weaponized against these people? Right? As I said, they've been in the belly of the beast. They themselves said that they were responsible in a large way for them going into office for 2020. So, take it. Is y'all put them there. Y'all put them there. You use your resources. They say you provided them with guns. You provide them with bulletproof vehicle. You provide them with money. Take them there. Stand up and take it according to Ralphie. Take it like a man. Take it like a man. But the police force suffers when things like this happen because we're dealing with human beings. And ranks, when they hear and they see they say, right, they become uncertain as to what they should do when matters are reported to them, especially when people who are presumed to be in line with the government, the FFFs, the friends, family, and favorite. What do you think will happen? What do you think? So we're going to continue to cover these things, man. We got to continue to highlight these issues. We're going to continue to highlight them. Whether they like it or not, that's to them. But let me move on. We have this thing. There's another matter that I want to bring before we go into this Venezuelan issue. Yeah, share the live. We have a good turnout today, but share the live. People don't want to hear this thing. Share the live. Now, Asudin Mohammed, the leader of the Win Party, who people expect to be the leader of the opposition whenever Manzuna Dir decides that he's going to call the meeting as required by Article 184 of the Constitution for the members of the opposition to elect an opposition leader or a leader of the opposition. We expect that he is going to be the man. Well, he had said some time ago that he had put up a picture about the blue canary. You remember that? I don't think I still have it on file, He had put up something with the blue canary, that the blue canary does sing nice, right? Well, it looked like the blue canary. For those of you who know about bird, I grew up in the country, so we say your mind board, whether it's grassy, whether it's later on you graduate a little mountain canary or a little tower. But when a bird is molting, we say moltering. Now, for you can't relate to this, them good by days. But when the bird is molting, means that you're changing feather, right? You got to carry it a certain way, you cover it up and that type of thing. But you don't whistle during the time when he's molting, or as the white people will say, as people say, when he's singing. But bird don't sing when you grow up in the country. The bird whistles, right? So, but when the bird is molting, we just say molter. When the bird moltering, the bird becomes weak. The bird can't whistle because he sheds all the feathers. You have to grow back new feathers and so on. So it looked like this bird, this blue canary, what did they talk about? The molting, right? It is moltering, as we would say. So he couldn't sing. But it has come out of molting. So now the bird singing. Over the weekend, it started off with he dropping tapes. Zulfikar Mustafa's son, Zulfikar Mustafa. We haven't played a while yet. We get the lineup. Things are moving so rapidly. Pradoville 2, the Skeldon factory. We dealt with the NIS and the Borbees River Bridge. We get enough to play. But then last week, I think it was, he came out with Susan Rodriguez. Big property around the place and so on. And once he came out with that video, Susan Rodriguez issued a statement, right? Well, of course, she denying. I said, oh God, I'm going to get trouble. It denying. You got to use neutral words, It denying that it is involved in such things. And then it said that it come from money. Said it come from money. And questions are asked. How is it that you come from money when you yourself said that your grandmother used to work at Del Casa, wash wares, and all this everything? People say that your daddy owned some taxi service in Middle Road of Penitence, 007 taxi service. They say your daddy employment was as a diver at the Demerara Arbor Bridge. So where you get this money from? Where you get this money from, right? So then it went on some other news thing, and again came up with a statement, and it said that will be the end. It is not going to comment on this issue any longer. Well, we got a next tape dropped yesterday. There's a next tape, but this one is mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. Let me play it for you, and then we're going to deal with it at the other end. Here we go. Lyrics.
This is what corruption looks like under the PPP government. Minister Susan Rodriguez, your level of corruption continues to grow to the point where we cannot even begin to address the corruption of your other colleagues in the PPP. The Guyanese people deserve answers as to how you and your wife acquired the funds to purchase a property in the United States located at 8601 Northwest 46th Court, Fort Lauderdale, Florida 33351. which was purchased on March 11, 2024 for $540,000 US, the equivalent of 116 million Guyana dollars. This property is one of several US-based assets under your American investment shell company, Revel Investments, LLC. According to records filed with the Florida Department of State, this shell company you created was incorporated on January 16, 2024, with registered owners listed as Susan Rodriguez and her spouse, Denisha Bob, now legally known as Denisha Rodriguez. The company's federal EIN is 99-101-8773. The listed mailing address for Revel Investments, LLC is 3550 Southwest 124th Avenue, Miramar, Florida, believed to be one of Susan's other U.S. properties. Additional records connect related correspondence to 3037 Southwest 179th Avenue, Miramar, Florida, an address associated according to the Northwest Homeowners Association with Durrani Tacordial, a South Florida realtor of Guyanese descent, license number 347-5349, employed by the Realty One Group. The property itself includes 3 bedrooms, 2 self-contained bathrooms, an electronic garage and balcony, central air conditioning, vaulted ceilings, walk-in closets, French doors, and high-impact hurricane-resistant windows. Features consistent with a prime investment property. Within just 2 months of the shell company creation, Susan has already figured out how to fund this shell company, created to siphon off hundreds of millions of Guyana taxpayer dollars to purchase prime real estate U.S. investment properties. What is most alarming is the method of payment. This transaction was executed with 100% equity. What this means is that this $540,000 US dollars were paid in full. A full purchase of this magnitude demands scrutiny on the source, movement, and legitimacy of the funds used by a public official. Guyanese need to know, is it liquid cash drugs money that was collected in the United States to purchase this property? Did these funds originate from Guyana? Which local bank facilitated the transfers? Why were such large transactions not flagged or reported to the Financial Intelligence Unit? Were local banks instructed to ignore standard anti-money laundering protocols? Were these funds routed through any third parties? If the money did not originate from Guyana, then what was its source? Were these funds derived from illicit activity, including narcotics trafficking? These are legitimate concerns that demand answers. Further, this matter now extends beyond Guyana. Transactions of this nature fall squarely within the jurisdiction of U.S. federal authorities, including the Department of Homeland Security, DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the FBI, and the IRS, Internal Revenue Service. Each of these agencies has a mandate to investigate unexplained wealth, cross-border financial transfers, money laundering, tax evasion, and the misuse of shell companies for illicit purposes. Finally, records show that the annual report for Revel Investments, LLC, filed with the Florida Department of State for the purpose of fee collection and compliance, was electronically signed by you, Susan Rodriguez. This places you personally on record and directly accountable for the declarations made to U.S. authorities. Imagine if a junior minister like Susan can acquire such wealth from corrupt means, much less a senior minister. The Guyanese people are watching and they are demanding answers. As the presumptive leader of the opposition, I am entrusted with an obligation to expose corruption and misuse of state resources to the Guyanese people. I would also urge the Integrity Commission to publish all submissions over the years. This will show if you're really serious about fighting corruption. You will recall over the last several weeks, I exposed the same minister who owns a massive apartment complex, a large, already substantial home with 6 high-end vehicles, and her mansion currently under construction. With all of this information, I therefore call on President Ali to launch a full investigation into Rodriguez's acquisition of wealth over the years of employment as a government minister with independent investigators, and to immediately relieve her of her minister duties until such investigation is done. Stay tuned for more exposure of corruption of ministers and their families in the PPP government.
Ooh la la. Time to look at the arrow. Mouth open, story jump out. You know the story? You know the saying? Open yourself with your mouth open, story jump out. And again, I say to all the critics, not the one, that well-endowed one. The people who gonna come to try to say, well, to criticize Mohammed, old people say, if Patwa come from river bottom and tell you say Uriga fever, you got to believe him. Again, Creolese, if Patwa come from river bottom and tell you say Uriga fever, you got to believe him. For those of you who are not familiar with the vernacular, Patwa and Uri are two different two species of fishes that live at the bottom of the river. And the moral of the story is that if one comes out from the bottom there where they reside and tells you that the other one is ill, you have got to believe because they dwell together. So if Muhammad come out from the belly of the beast, as we say, PPP belly of the beast, that corrupt cabal, and tell you all of these things. And here, what I love about it, as I told you, given our background as police officers, the man seems to have receipt, date when the property was purchased, the location of the property. This thing requires a proper investigation. You don't get no investigation from no agency in Guyana. None. CID, SOCU, none. Right? So there are a lot of questions that you said. Is money laundering involved? Because when, as he claims, you can purchase a property in the US for 540,000 US cash. Enough money about. Enough money. And don't forget, remember, sometime last year, well, let me put it this way. The minister, or this person, is now the Minister of Tourism. Before occupying that position, it was the Minister of Housing. And if you recall, June last year, the CEO of Housing, a man named Graves, he got skin up some property he buy in Queens, New York, for 940,000 US. They said the property value much more than that, but he paid 940,000. So what's going on in the ministry there, boy? What is going on there? And you tell me, in light of all this allegation, this and you're not going to investigate, the minister should be made to step aside, because they're going to tell you about due process and the presumption of innocence, which is selectively applied, right? Step aside, get a full, credible investigation. But let me say this too, that if it involves, because you know the Mohammeds and the indictment they have is to made fraud and all them type of things. So if they involve, if this transaction, these illegal transactions involve the US or system, one would expect that the federal agencies of the US are going to get involved. One would expect, because unless they get involved, nothing ain't going to happen. Allegation against Jack New in the Sugate, nothing. Allegation against, when Junior Bosch make allegation against the president, against his mother, against the minister, I always forget the name, the minister of natural resource. All them name call in the thing. All them name call. Allegation of gold smuggling, right? With Venezuelan senior people. Now that we have this issue in Venezuela, one if they can come up, right? One if they can come up. Because the thing seems to be widespread. The thing seems to be widespread. 58% poverty in Guyana, and them ministers just live lavish lifestyle. Where are they getting all this money from? And don't tell me about no investment. Them and name Warren Buffett, them and name Bill Gates, them and name Mukesh Ambani, and even those persons that I just called, those people took decades to acquire the wealth that they have. And them they say in 4 years and 5 years, you want to tell about investment? They invest? Well, tell us where we can invest to and come out of property. Susan Rodriguez talk about she imply generational wealth because she said she come from money. She come from money, but she grandmother used to wash her ears at Del Casa, and she father used to dive at Demerara Harbour Bridge, come from money. It seems to be at his thieving. And y'all don't correct me when I say thieving, that is Guyanese. Like if people say they stole, no stole. Thieving is another level. Let me say your thief is another level. Remember, Jack Dio said that Lincoln Lewis is a dinosaur. Lincoln Lewis, the trade unionist. And Lincoln Lewis said, yes, I'm a dinosaur, but you're a thief. Y'all remember that? I got to remind y'all of these things. That's what Lincoln Lewis said. They're thieving. They're thieving. All the ministries, and I'm saying that without any fear of contradiction, because they had evidence I produced last year to show they got run-ins with car washing and so on at all them ministry. Car wash almost $100,000, right? Car go in detail every month and every 2 months. You have to pay 100 and something thousand for shine a car. To shine a car. It's corruption in the thing. Corruption. And as I was reminded, when we talk about PPP, we talking about cocaine, we talk about corruption. We talk about cocaine, we talk about corruption. Now let me bring in CC. And again I say, these allegations against the minister and the other ministers require them being sent out to facilitate a proper investigation, proper audit and so on, forensic audit and thing. And no, there's no institution in Guyana capable of conducting a proper, unbiased audit. So you got to bring in some agency, but they're going to do that. You know why they're not going to do it? Because all of them are going to be caught in that dragnet. All of them. They are involved, either directly or indirectly. They are all involved. They are all involved. And that's why this year, corruption, incompetence, we're going to increase the pace because the evidence is there. We're going to increase the pace and we're going to demand for action to be taken. And let me say this too. People writing letter in the newspaper and people you have to do more than that. You have to do more than writing. Within the law, of course, I'm not advocating for people to break the law, but you got to do more than that. You got to go and picket these people's offices. You got to do, let me tell you all this before bringing CC. When you had the Gajraj issue, Gajraj accused of being part of this death squad, right? Letters used to be written and all sort of thing, nothing happening. Those women, PNC women in the main, and civil society women, decided they're going to go and they're going to picket every morning. They protested in front of Gajraj's house. Every morning they go in front of the house, they ring the bell, they sing the song, they sing the Sankey, they sing the hymn, and the thing got to him. I know that because I was commander of the division for a while. Got to him, he used to call and complain, right? Got to call and complain. So maybe you got to up this thing. You got to up the ante. Just sit down and write in and so on. And again, let me say this because I know that this thing, I'm not advocating for anyone to break the law. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I was a law enforcement. I was over 37 years. I'm not advocating for people to break the law. But you got to do more within the confines of the law to highlight this thing. Write to all them international organizations. Provide the evidence to them. Provide the evidence to Washington. Provide the evidence to the EU. Provide the evidence every place. And let them see what is going on. And I guess at some stage, action is going to be taken. At some stage. Because the people can be in them corridors whispering about what is going on in Guyana. Let me bring in CC to wrap up this part of it. And then we're going to move on to the tech-ups over the weekend. CC, the minister at it again. And you got to admire Mohammed. And he's singing now, but he seems to have the receipts. What is your take?
This thing calls for forensic audit, Here we getting the allegations and nothing is being done, and Mohammed appeared to get an authentic thing. Perhaps I never hear about any blue canary, but the canary is singing. Or not singing, listening around, the canary is whistling. I'm whistling all the time. And we say more to come. It's time that Susan step aside. But then She ain't get seed, she ain't get balls to step aside, you know. Time for her to step. I remember Ashley Jackson, he was foreign affairs minister, and they find his son with split, I think it was Ganjo, and the minister resigned. Now he commit any offense, you know. His son, a little bit Ganjo, and the minister say, my integrity, let me go. You know, they did, and the more Susan exposed herself, the more she lift up her skirt, she getting exposed. And she getting exposed in a big way. In a big way. She says she notice anything that she the clothes shop. She the clothes, she the clothes up your legs. But let me see what's gonna happen now. And let's see what's gonna happen if Mohammed get the canary to whistle some more. And the canary really know how to whistle. Can you get in dates? You get in receipts. You get in photographs. You get in everything there. And I know how they could rebut that. So, Paul, we gotta expect more. But as you say, talking wouldn't be doing anything. Writing might not be doing anything. That you gotta move a step further. You gotta up the ante. But you gotta do that within the confines of the law. We're not advocating for you to go and break any law, but to operate within the confines of the law. And it's not only Susan. There's allegation against Mustafa. You get allegation against Minds people, and all sort of things. So they might be afraid that if they do a proper forensic audit, all would be exposed and all would be consumed. So they just left it at that and hoping that, you know, things will not happen. But we on Speaking Out will not stop. We will continue to expose left, right, and center. Don't mind is who. We'll continue to expose corruption and incompetence at all levels.
Now let me say this. Somebody correcting one of the students say you say about lifting up skirt. And I agree with the student. I have never seen the minister in a skirt. I have never seen the minister of the skirt, and another student is cautioning you to use the correct gender. You must be gender neutral because you're using he and you're using she or you're using these things. So you got to be mindful of your what gender you are using. Right?
Understood.
Now let me move on. And you know, somebody said the thing you spoke about. Minister Ashley Jackson resigning. His son was charged with possession. You know, not the purpose of not trafficking, possession, and the minister resigned because there was something then that you call integrity. None of these Jagabats here have integrity. None. They have no integrity because if you have integrity and you see your colleagues doing all the things that they're doing, because you know what they're doing, you see what they're doing, integrity would have demanded that you speak out. Well, you ain't got no integrity. There is no integrity. Now let me move on to this subject. We got what? Just 30, 35 minutes more. Over the weekend, man. Talking about Maduro now. Yeah, share the live. Share the live. We're going to delve into some issues relating to the issue in Venezuela, right? And I made some note because it is important. Remember, I have been telling you students every program to pay attention to what is going on around Venezuela with the U.S. military resources in the Caribbean Sea. I said too that once that type of resource was brought there, they ain't going away just so. Some action had to be taken. Yeah, remember that? Were you in class on that day, on those days? Because I said it more than once. I said the fact that you had the old battle group, John F. Ford and all these resources and all the team in there. You can't bring all of those resources to the region and then decide that you're redrawing them just like that without taking action. Of course, I couldn't accurately predict what action would be taken. But we woke up Saturday morning and learned that the US went into Venezuela and took out. Well, I should say take out, because in some context when they say take out, people mean kill. They arrested the Venezuelan president, Nicolas Maduro. And the correct name is Nicolas Maduro Moras. They took him out of Venezuela. A lot of the military operation and so on, right? And then there are a lot of lessons to be learned, a lot of things to analyze, right? A lot of things. Well, somebody say, Sean is not extradite. That's more like rendish. You render him. Some people using the emotive words, kidnapping and all that. He was rendered. He was taken out, right? And let me say this before I say anything else. It tells us, despite all the monkeying around in Guyana, if the U.S. really want anybody, the U.S. wants anybody, the U.S. can go and the U.S. can get you, right? Anyone, whether you're president, whether you are a opposition leader, if they want you, they can come and get you. That is the story. But the U.S. went in there and the U.S. took him out, took him to U.S. As a matter of fact, now it's Mr. One. He was flown to, he spent the night in a facility in Brooklyn, spent 2 nights, Saturday night and Sunday night. And they said at 12 o'clock today, he should have appeared before a judge in Lower Manhattan charged with drug trafficking and all of that, right? Charges. But let me go into some stuff, right? Now, the story here, I am not going to go into the legality of the action. I mean, when you go on TV, the pundits and all them questioning the legality of the U.S. to go into Venezuela and to remove Maduro, claiming that they break international law and all of that. I am not going there. That is far above my pay grade. Far above my pay grade. But I want to say this. I noted in the media, they said the president making, well, he said a little, not much. He didn't say much, Guyana president, about the defense and all this everything. I hope they sit down and they recognize the implications for Guyana. Not for them being extracted or for them being rendered, but if things go south in Venezuela, as some people expect it to go, the type of collateral damage that will pose. Already we have a large Venezuelan population in Guyana, so it's out of control. Imagine a couple 100,000 more, a couple thousand more running across the border into Guyana. Can you imagine the nightmare situation there? Can you imagine the nightmare? So I hope they sit down. And we're going to talk about that in great detail, right? Now, the whole story is that from the time the thing broke towards the Saturday morning, the Trinidad Prime Minister, Kamla Bissessar, came out, said, we weren't involved in that. Distance yourself early. Said, we are involved in that, right? Our president, the Guyana president, did not make any statement until Saturday night. Till Saturday night. And what he said. Let me see if I can find what he said. He came out and what did he say? He made some statement here. Let me see if I can find it. Here what the president said. Here what Guyana president said. In the land, the government of Guyana continues to monitor the development in Venezuela following the capture of Nicolas Maduro by the United States of America in Venezuela. Stability, respect for law, and democratic transitions are critical to the future of Venezuela and the broader Americas. In this regard, Guyana supports efforts that uphold democratic norms and ensure that the region remains a zone of peace. The government of Guyana welcomes the leadership of the President of the United States in reaffirming shared commitments for freedom, democracy, and regional security. We look forward to constructive engagement in Venezuela next chapter in the interest of all Venezuelans. Yeah, choppiness for this man, sir. How can you, given what has happened, again, I say I ain't going into the legality of the thing, but how can you say, talk about stability, respect for law, and democratic transitions are critical to the future of Venezuela? That's some statement. They are afraid to call it what it is. They are afraid. And I noted that one of the, let me see if I could find it, because while the president tried to attack, hours after, according to the timeline, I think I saw it on Starbucks this morning, this incident in Venezuela occurred about 2, 3 o'clock. At least that is when the news broke, early in the morning, when the US president made a tweet, right? They had defense board, president called defense board meeting to discuss this issue. And it's until the night, Saturday night, that he made a statement. In the meanwhile, long before that, former president, PPP member, Donald Ramatar, Uncle Donald come out. He came in out, as they would say. Hear what Donald said. The bombing of Venezuela and the kidnapping of the country's president and first lady has taken us back to the days of gunboat diplomacy. International laws are being trampled on and totally disregarded. Sovereignty of small and medium-sized countries have become meaningless, and the U.S. has emerged as a super colonial power. Countries in the region have become terrified and may well soon have to express, quote, support for the U.S. action. What has happened early this morning is a continuation of the U.S. and Israeli action in Palestine. And unless the peaceful and democratic forces of the world unite, we will see more of the same. Cuba and Iran may be next. That's what Donald Ramatar, former president, came out and said. But the president come out there, I guess with his tails between his legs, and he said something there. The Prime Minister of Barbados, Mayor Amor Motley, came out and she made a statement, but I appreciate, I'm impressed by the manner. She had a press conference where she addressed several issues relating to that operation that are affecting Barbados, the fact that flights were canceled, all of that. She talked about what is going on. She spoke to our ambassador or a commissioner, whatever it is, I think it's ambassador to Venezuela, who is a former military man, all of that, and gave the reassurance that they are taking care of the Bajans who might be in Venezuela. No such statement from President Ali, none. No such statement. What I did, Mark Phillips went to the border in Region 1 to talk to the police and soldiers. Look, this is Mark Phillips addressing the soldiers in Region 1 on Saturday. You tell me this is not a joke? How many soldiers they have there? They got man here with a camera you could barely see. 1, 2, 3, 4, you got one in the back here, 5, 6, 7. Why do they post these things? Come out with a statement and say, yeah, the Prime Minister went there to speak to the soldiers and so on. But you're going to post a picture with the Prime Minister talking to 7 soldiers. What impression are you conveying? What is the mission of the police? What is the mission of the soldiers in respect of what is taking place? I would have thought that it would be to secure the borders. Only the borders to secure, so that if and when you have an influx of Venezuelan, if the situation deteriorates, they are told what action they have to take, that you are prepared to accommodate and to process and to deal with any large influx of Venezuelans into Guyana. Right now, we understand things are, well, you can't say stable, but there's no indication that there's a rush to the borders. The Colombian president, and Colombia shares a border with Venezuela. They mobilize troops to the border to deal with any influx of Venezuelans. But we get the Prime Minister went out there, Mark Phillips. He must tell them some lie because he's known for that. And talking to 7 soldiers. And they post this, you know. They post this. They post this picture and other pictures as well. They're talking to the he and accompanied by the police and so on. The thing look real cartoonish. It looks real cartoonish, right? But let me say this. As I said, look, this is when he was captured, Nicolas Maduro, and taken aboard some naval vessel, right? And then this here now is when he was being, this is a thing they said he had the Drug Enforcement Authority, when they took him to the Drug Enforcement Authority headquarters and so on. This morning you have circulated in social media where he is flown from where he spent the night to downtown Manhattan to some federal facility there where he is going to be made to answer to the charge of drug trafficking. Now, I want to say this before I bring in CC. Now, this is a situation where information is not flowing, and we can understand that. But if you are a social media junkie, be careful of what you read, be careful of how you interpret what you read, because they're going to have a lot of memes, a lot of false information, and so on circulating. A lot of things going to be there, right? So you've got to be very discerning. On Saturday, while this thing was unfolding, I chose to look at Al Jazeera because I believe Al Jazeera gives a balanced view of global incidents. I chose Al Jazeera, and then later on I tuned in to BBC. This morning, again, I listened to Morning Joe and to hear what is going on as well. Be careful, because you go on Facebook and you'll see all sort of thing there. All sort of thing. So be careful. And don't spread. Be careful, don't spread rumors wildly. Right? Now, one of the things, and we're going to talk about it, what impresses me, let me tell you something. My background is tactical man and so on. TSU, all the years and thing, planning operations and so on. I love that. And therefore, my brother, what I looked at, and it is when you hear the general explained the coordination, the professionalism of this operation. Whether you like it or not, that is something to be admired. And that's something I learned from. All these 250 something or 150 something aircraft, all the simultaneous operations and so on. You got to understand, if you are a tactical man, you have got to appreciate that. You have got to appreciate that. Right? And so there's a lot to discuss. I don't think we're going to be able to get through it all today. But let me bring in CC, and then I'm going to, we have a lot to talk about on this particular matter. But let me bring in CC, and then I'm going to come back. CC, your take on what transpired in Venezuela early Saturday morning.
What I saw there, I describe as a classical strike, classical ops. And it reminds me of some of the operations by the Israelis. I remember 90 minutes in NTB when they flew to NTB, they flew on the waves, they flew on treetops, they resurfaced and rescue persons in NTB. And I also remember when President Obama was there and they went into Pakistan or Balatar or something like that, I can't remember the name, and they got Bin Laden, they killed, who was not too far from the army headquarters compound there. It was a classical operation, although they're not saying how many persons were killed. A lot of people had to die, especially Maduro's security, but they're not saying that, but there is that thing. But the thing is that it got consequences. What happened there, it had consequences for Guyana. And we mustn't wait for things to happen before we start taking action. And the nonsense where they're flying the lied prime minister to region number 1, to talk to 7 people at one location. is total inappropriate. I said, and then even the president talk a whole bundle of nonsense, things that doesn't make sense. He wasn't focused because what happened in Venezuela, there are consequences in Guyana. We on the border. I said before that we get 270 miles sea coast where they can where we expect in case anything goes wrong in real wrong in Venezuela, a real uprising and other things there, that Guyana will be flooded with Venezuelans, both people in large numbers dropping out simultaneously at various locations. So we get a 200 sea coast there. They could be at Wim, they could be at Bar Settlement, they could be at Legwan, at Wakenham, Porico, all the thing. You go out in the sea and you're coming back. And then remember the Jag the other had offer freeway to the Atlantic, where they can come in through the Essequibo, Cayuni, Mazzaroni, Potaro, Wenemu, all those things there, they are avenue, and then we got to think about what happened in the Mediterranean with those boat people fleeing, and this where our ice called our dime must come into play, DIME. That our approach should be we need to look at diplomacy. I know nothing. Perhaps you're doing quietly. I haven't had a word for ambassador if he's still in Caracas or if he's elsewhere. Or intelligence is critical. Critical of intelligence, more so intelligence on the border. The intelligence, the special branch, the army intelligence, the one NISO. I think there's a top one and all that got to come into play, that we got to be, police like to talk about intelligence led, that we got to get good intelligence and be prepared for what is coming. Or military, what are we doing with them? Go ahead and talk to them for 5-10 minutes and there's it. Are they trained enough that in case anything they could hold on a spot until help arrives? And we're dealing heavily on America. We can't deal on America alone. Brazil got to come into play. Other powers got to come into play, whether they through diplomacy or otherwise. I remember in the 80s and thereabout, when Bonham was the leader of this country and Venezuela kicking up, we ensure that all our ranks in charge of station at border location were trained in jungle warfare. Everyone who was in charge had the training in jungle warfare, where they were able to keep this in case anything, to hold on a situation until help arrives. So we look at the military, we look at the economy too, protection for offshore activities and another thing like that. So there are consequences, a lot of consequences, spin-off effects that will occur. And then look at it. They say we get over 100,000 Venezuelans here. We could be flooded with hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans, and those are things we got to be thinking about. I think Colombia must get about 5 to 6 million or even more Venezuelans there. And the possibility of them coming across easily in the border, the possibility of them landing on the sea coast is real. And we have to look at how we can deal with the situation. But we had experience before where in the Northwest, they take them in by droves, they take them in by scores, and they open facilities for them. They use funds that was available to the IOM, International Organization of Migration. They treat them, so when they come, you treat them as migrants. You know who come in? But we're going to treat them as migrants. They're going to overflow and get more Spanish people, likelihood, more Spanish people in Guyana than Guyanese. And those are some of the issues that we got to look at: our diplomacy, our intelligence, our military, and our economy.
Yeah, well said, well said. You know, and you raise a very interesting point. What is the position with the Guyana ambassador to Venezuela, Richard Van West Charles? Richard, what is he still there? Has he been? The man silent. The man is silent. You know what struck me as very, very strange. Well, not strange, but amusing when you looked at the picture that they published with the Defense Board meeting Saturday morning. Looked like a motley collection of people, but including in that group was the former Minister of Home Affairs, Robeson Ben, who is now, they say, is a senior advisor to the new Minister of Home Affairs. Robeson shoot and scoot Ben, so maybe he would have been telling them about some tactics. He should have accompanied Mark Phillips to tell the soldiers that when you see them, you must shoot and scoot and keep shooting and keep scooting. Maybe this is the time for Robeson Ben to be involved and to give them the tactical advice as to how they must deal with this thing, right? Look, you want Robeson Ben?
Who are out there, if they come, we got to shoot and scoot. And shoot good and scoot. And keep shooting and scooting until help arrives.
So maybe that is the thing now. Maybe that is what the message that Mark Phillips took to the soldiers on the border: shoot and scoot, shoot and scoot. But on a more serious note, you know, again, when you look at the operation, because we are told among the things that took place there Friday night into Saturday morning, is that the people, the forces were able to shut down electricity in Caracas and elsewhere, shut it down completely. CC made the point, we haven't heard any official number about casualties, but such an operation must have casualties. We're hearing the Cubans are saying how many Cubans who were sent there to protect Maduro were killed. We understand civilians, they're claiming civilians were killed during the operation. That is not going to be surprising. Collateral damage, they call it. Collateral damage. But I noted from the initial reports from the U.S. sources, then they didn't say anything about casualties. And I said that given the scope of the operation, you have to have casualties. You have to have. Well, you know, last night, there was on 60 Minutes, a brief thing. I'm going to play it for you. A brief background on 60 Minutes. We have other things to say. As I said, we're going to come again with this. And but here we go. A brief background about what transpired there. Well, in Venezuela, not necessarily the operation on Friday nights going into Saturday morning. But listen.
63-year-old Nicolas Maduro was in power 12 years. In 2024, he lost his re-election bid, but remained in power and forced the winner into exile. Maduro ruled Venezuela's 28 million people as an autocrat, imprisoning his opposition and leaving the economy of an oil-rich nation in shambles. Yesterday, the U.S. Department of Justice revealed an indictment of Maduro, accusing him in a so-called narco-terrorism conspiracy.
These investigations aren't easy. They can be stressful, and they can take up a lot of time. This one, 10 plus years. And you have
one of the investigators at the center of the case was Sandy Gonzalez. He served 25 years in the Drug Enforcement Administration, part of that in Venezuela and investigating Maduro.
Close to 20 years ago, DEA at the Special Operations Division started looking at high-level drug trafficking in Venezuela. And it eventually led to high-ranking military, police officials in Venezuela, and ultimately government officials.
And Maduro was among them?
Yes.
What was the most significant evidence against Maduro?
It's a state-sponsored drug trafficking organization, so it's a massive conspiracy. And what I mean by that is not everybody is going to be holding the kilos of cocaine. But in a conspiracy, you link everybody together. That's part of the chain. Maduro was part of that chain, first as a minister of foreign affairs and then later as a president. So when you're the president of a country and you are giving the green light to engage in this activity and you're putting people in critical positions, in governors, ministers, heads of agencies, and allowing them to carry out these drug trafficking activities, you're just as guilty as the person making the drugs and transporting the drugs.
But is it a matter of Maduro simply looking the other way, or was he enriching himself from the drug trade?
I believe the evidence is going to show he was enriching himself. It was much more than just looking the other way. There was direct involvement.
With Maduro now gone, what in your view changes?
So it was a great step, but Maduro isn't the only person in that government that was involved in drug trafficking. There are still several DEA fugitives in Venezuela in positions in that government. The job's just started.
Maduro may be gone, but the drug conspiracy remains.
Yes.
He may be gone, but the drug conspiracy remains. And you know, there's an indictment there, 25-page indictment in the Southern District of New York. And others are named, you know, other senior people in Venezuela are named in this indictment. And they made a very startling disclosure in the indictment. And let me read a part of it, right? Let me read a brief part. They say, through his drug trafficking, Nicolas Maduro Moras, the defendant, and corrupt members of his regime enabled corruption fueled by drug trafficking throughout the region. The transshipment points in Honduras, Guatemala, and Mexico similarly relied on a culture of corruption in which cocaine traffickers operating in those countries paid a portion of their own profit to politicians who protected and aided them. In turn, these politicians used the cocaine-fueled payments to maintain and augment their political power. So too were politicians along the Caribbean route corrupted by cocaine traffickers who would pay them for protection from arrest and to allow favored traffickers to operate with impunity as they traffic cocaine from Venezuela north towards the United States. Thus, at every step, relying on the producers in Colombia, transporters and distributors in Venezuela, and recipients in redistribution on transshipment point north, the traffickers enrich themselves and they corrupt benefactors who protected and aided them. But the people are saying Caribbean involved, Caribbean routes. They make use, they pay people along the Caribbean routes. However, we know Guyana is not a part geographically of the Caribbean, but when you talk about the Caribbean culturally, Guyana is a part of the Caribbean. Now, we know, the evidence is there, that a lot of the drugs suspected to be coming from Colombia through Venezuela into Guyana. We got to always remind you of that 4.4 tons of cocaine found in Port Kaituma not so long ago. We have to remind you too that in that, the United States sanctioned a senior police officer, among others. They labeled him as a drug trafficker. And what has happened? I hope with this thing now, as they say, you open a can of worms, everything gonna come out. Everything is gonna come out, right? And let me say this too, because people celebrating, a lot of people celebrating around the world, the removal of a dictator, which is a natural reaction. There's no question that Maduro did a lot of bad, right? He did a lot of bad. They say imprisoned opponents. Last year, I think it was when they were to have the election year for the last, the man prevented one of the opposition leaders from running and so on. And then he did so many undemocratic things. And there's a lesson to be learned, because we have a situation in Guyana where we had an election on the 1st of September. Parliament, the 13th Parliament sworn in on the 3rd of November. And up to now, the Speaker cannot convene a meeting of the opposition members as required by Article 184 of the Constitution to elect the leader of the opposition. And then the president talking about democracy and all of these type of things. That is so undemocratic. It is so undemocratic. So you got to look at it in a very holistic form. Maduro did a lot of bad things. Good riddance. Good riddance. Again, me and getting into the method he employed to get rid of him. I ain't going there. That's beyond my pay grade. Them boys and them legal people and the people in school in international law and all, they're going to debate that. I'm going to follow the debate on that and hope to learn a few things. What I'm saying, he gone. Good riddance. What happened to all the partner them, people like Ralph Gonzalez? Remember Ralph Gonzalez? The man who lured our president into St. Vincent for the Argyle Accord? This man, Maduro, did a lot of things. The man, all election and elected a governor for our Essequibo. And let me say this. Let me caution my fellow Guyanese, because if you are following this Venezuelan situation with Guyana, you're going to recognize that the person who is there now as acting president, they say, was just or even more hawkish than Maduro when it came to Venezuela. She went to the UN and all this everything because they have been indoctrinated to believe that Essequibo belongs to them. I saw a photo of this new Rodriguez, whatever she name. I saw a photograph of her. She has on a pin, a lapel pin, with a map of Venezuela, which includes Essequibo. The map of Venezuela includes Essequibo. So yeah, while we might be celebrating the downfall of Maduro, it is my belief that whoever replaces him and backing off from this claim that Essequibo belongs to Venezuela. So let me understand this carefully. So yeah, we can celebrate. And then we have to watch carefully to see how things are going to develop in that country. That country of 20-something million people. I know you would have noted that the U.S. said, President Trump said Saturday, that the U.S. will be running Venezuela. And the people have been saying Venezuela is not an easy place to run. Together, you talk about the motive. Initially, we were led to believe that this was about drug trafficking. But based on what we're hearing now, it's not only drug trafficking, it's about oil. Oil. You remember Eric Williams had said sometime, oil don't spoil. Because Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve in the world. Listen to this carefully. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserve in the world. And they have made it, the US now have made it clear that that is factored into this, some call them regime change, but some said there's no regime change because the regime, apart from Maduro, remains intact. So we have got to watch it. Us Guyanese have got to watch this thing very, very carefully. And don't for one moment believe that because Maduro gone, things are going to redound to our benefit. Because the same Del Rodriguez went to the ICC and them place and met nice, claiming that Venezuela, that Essequibo belongs to Venezuela. She was the person they were sending to the front. She was the one. And if she now is the acting president, she position ain't gonna change, I don't think. I don't think, because there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of confusion. Because at one stage it was said that she would be running things. Then she and the generals, powerful generals, said that they recognize Maduro as the one and only president of Venezuela. I understand that there might have been a little softening on that position, but we are in for interesting times. And Venezuela is so close to us, we share border, and therefore whatever happens in Venezuela is likely to have a significant impact on Guyana. And we got to monitor it carefully. Because notwithstanding all the posturing about the president, we have border security. And what security? What security? If a couple thousand Venezuelans decide to come in again, coming across, right, what are you going to do? You're going to stop them? What are you going to use to stop them? Them 7 soldiers that Mark Phillips was speaking to, right? Them, that's how we're going to stop. You don't have. So therefore, you got to sit down and plan where they come, we're going to deal them. Where they're going to have some camp somewhere to have them, and then you're going to process them. Because the nightmare scenario is that these people come across and are allowed to just disperse all over in Guyana. There's a nightmare scenario. Venezuelans running in the thousands now. If things deteriorate further, and there's always the caveat, if things deteriorate further, they're running across the border, and then they're allowed to spread all over Guyana. Nightmare scenario. I hope they sit down and they're thinking about that. If they're going to run, maybe you hold them at some place where you can process them and all them. You have a lot of logistics to consider, and you can't wait till it happens. You have to sit down now and do the what ifs. You have to sit now and do the what ifs. And I hope they're listening. But you know, in many cases with them, it's not the message, it is the messenger. Then, body me the message, it is the messenger. And the unfortunate thing, they have a lot of people who are just sycophants in uniform. So they don't have the gall when these politicians say something to be very professional and to explain to them why it can't work that way. They ought to have the training and all that to sit down and say, look, this is the way it should be done. Very professional way. And I'm sure there are people in the system with that type of skills. But whether they're going to be allowed to express their views, whether the views are going to be taken into consideration is the next thing, right? Because all of them are now frightened to call out the U.S. Despite what you hear, what Ali said tells you, they can't come out. I mean, Ramatar bold enough because he out of government. And I suspect they're going to tell you just now, like what Jagdeo told Janet Jagan when she criticized Jagdeo for withholding funding or advertising money from the independent media, Starbuck News and them. He said she is a Janaragu. She is a Asmin. That is the old personal view. So they're going to say the same thing about Ramatar. I suspect that Ian holding no official position, and that is his personal position. That is not the position of the government. He is a Janaragu. Y'all know what's a Janaragu? You see, when I use these phrases as a countryman, I gotta explain because I will be flying over the head of a lot of people. You know, they said Janaragu was an old-time bad man. Janaragu, oh. That's what Kweko used to sing. Janaragu. And then you could substitute the word bad with anything else. Janaragu was an old-time thief man. Janaragu, oh. Janaragu was an old-time scamp man. Anything you can tell. So when people tell you that you're a Janaragu, it means that you're old time, you're gone, your day's gone, you wash out. So they're going to say that Daniel Ramatar is a Janaragu. He's a Janaragu. So he's expressing his personal view. He's expressing his personal view. I know many of you not familiar with these phrases, you know. So they gotta explain them. First of all, some of you too young, and some of you I grew up in the country. Them countrymen like myself in my era will know about these phrases and so on. I know enough of you and never heard about Janaragu before in this context, right? So folks, let me watch to see what is going on. Let me watch. This matter, we have a lot more to discuss on this matter. The latest, I understand that Maduro appeared in court and pleaded not guilty, as is expected. As is expected, he got pleaded not guilty, and then he got back. I hear he did the same facility with Sean Combs. Puff Daddy, and here, Puff the hey, internet, you know, them might get memes where Puff Daddy offering the baby aisle. Puff Daddy offering the baby aisle. So, a lot of things between now and when we reach again on Wednesday, I'm sure you're going to get a lot of development. We have a lot of local things to talk about too in Guyana. We are going to look to see the development in this issue with the land and the transfer of those ranks and so on. We're going to look at it. We're going to continue to follow. There are so many issues, right? There are so many issues. So we said to you, let me bring in CC to give his closing and to comment on what we said to give his closing. And then I'm going to give you a look forward. I see CC is not in the studio, so let me continue for now. Let me say this. Let me bring in CC for his closing and we're going to continue. CC, we had a long morning. What is your closing, my brother?
A long morning, the truth. And I'm saying that there are consequences that will follow in relation to what happened there with the president of Venezuela and collected him, and he gone to United States to face charges. When in the meanwhile, I'm saying, or I mentioned before, that we got to make sure that things work, that our diplomacy work, that our intelligence work, and that our military, and so not even the soldier, the police, that the military are ready in the event of certain things that will happen. No, I read that the president in one of his Seagull episodes read the right act to members of the Geology and Mines Commission, the people employed there, in relation to the Brazilians who are producing gold and not declaring, who got license for judge and not producing anything. I hope in their actions they look at Marodi Mountains. I've been preaching about Marodi Mountains where large scale gold is being produced under declare and the rest gone across the Takatu to Brazil. So in closing, I'm saying, look at our dime, our diplomacy, our intelligence, our military, or economics, and also look at what is going on at Marodi Mountain in relation to production and smuggling of our natural resources, the gold.
Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah, there's something we got to follow up. I must confess that I haven't paid much attention. I saw the headline, but I ain't going into it in the details. But what struck me then when I read it, they are demanding that these people make larger declaration based on what. So I don't know. I'm gonna go into that. As I've said, tomorrow should be the trial in the extradition case. I understand from what was being communicated in court today, the Chief Justice ruled that the matter should continue, but I think simultaneously, the challenge to the constitutionality of the amendment to the Fugitive Offenders Act should go on in the High Court. So I think it's something that I understand. So he didn't grant them the stay on the proceedings in the magistrate court. So he's saying that should continue tomorrow. Basically, there's a ruling. But the challenge to the constitutionality of the Fugitive Offenders Act can also go on in the High Court. I don't know how that is work. I don't know how it's going to work, because if it is that you're claiming that this thing is unconstitutional, how do you then proceed in the magistrate court without the High Court ruling on the constitutionality of this amendment? I don't know. The legal people, again, I know many of them follow this program, may want to explain to us laymen how that works. But that is, so you get that tomorrow. We get that. We are into the 5th day of January. President told us on New Year's Day that early in the new year, people can get sent home. Remember those people who they claim are involved in this illegal driver's license scheme, can get sent home. So we're waiting. We're still early in the new year. We're waiting. And we're monitoring that. And then we learned late last week, we haven't even been able to get into that, about the transfer of assets. Transfer of assets, Asudin Mohammed and family, to other people, claiming that I think they were to arrest several GRA officers. Then don't forget this scam with the vehicles registration and all them type of thing, where they are taking a set of GRA officers into custody. Is over a week now. The things that we have so much to discuss, but we're not going to forget these things. We're not going to forget, because many times they make these statements and they know that things can just slip. They can't make us other statement. The president said that all in the new year, people can get sent home. And we discussed it on the last program, I think it was. So, just sir. And let me repeat this here too. Because if it is, as the president indicated, they have the records of all those persons who acquired the driver's license illegally. And he said bypassing the system. He used that euphemism, bypassing the system. We said if you're dealing with corruption, you give them grace period. I think they get a 6-week grace period. We're supposed to end in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Are you telling me that you're serious about dealing with corruption? Why not, if you have the information, why not arrest and put them before the court? And then you ask the people to return in their license. I wonder how many persons have turned their license in at this stage. That might be interesting to know. How many persons have turned in their license? And talking about turning the license, I think only we had another fatal accident. I know what I call it somewhere else. Give a course over the weekend. Some truck found some bridge into some rice field, and some Venezuelan national was killed. We have all of these things going on. All of these things. So, folks, again, today, for many of you, whether you want to admit it or not, was your first working day for the year. And therefore, I say to you, again, happy New Year. We are going to continue to do the work. We're going to monitor what is going on. We ask you again, for those of you who are inclined or who have the resources, who have to make a contribution, the numbers are there. We thank all those who have been making contributions to the upkeep, financial contributions to the upkeep of this program. And we pledge for this new year that we will continue. And finally, I want to find out from you how your New Year's resolution going. Some people make the New Year resolution Old Year's night, and by now, the 5th day, they're done, you know. They're done. They forget all what they resolved to do. But I am proud to say that so far I have been keeping up with what I promised to do, to be a bit more active and so on. I start off good, and I hope it can continue that way. So I say to you folks, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the day until we meet again. God's Spirit Life. We're going to meet on Wednesday at 11. Remember, the gates will be open from 9. And we're going to go out with the new song. We're going to go out with the new song. So until we meet God's Spirit Life on Wednesday, be good. Stay well. Bye.
Up comes Parslow and Mr. Clinton. Can't wait. Speaking and exposing corruption each and every day. Guyanese, turn on your TV and go to YouTube and listen to what Parslow and Conway to say. Whole day we are calling for Parslow and Clinton Conway. They teach and educating, exposing the things in the system. We need a better Guyana for the little boys and the children poor. Slow and Clinton Conway.
All the money they invest, 2.2 billion.
Hear me when I sing. Oh. Guyanese at home and abroad. Please log into Conway as wide as it can reach. Parslow, you always will preach. Oh, yeah. Like and share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so this message could reach as far. And every Guyanese will feel well. Oh, yes. Yeah. Parslow and Clinton Conway.